Welcome to the next installment of LIA100. I am Leila Rao, and my guest today is Em Cambell-Pretty. You probably have heard of Em because she's been around Agile for a long time and is an amazing Agile leader in Australia. Welcome, Em.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So let's dive right into it. Because you do have this amazing history, can you tell us about your journey and how you became where you are today?
I don't know. I often think about it as a series of accidents. I actually came to Agile from the business as opposed to technology, which seems to be a little bit more unusual. I was a general manager. I was working at a large corporate, and most of my life was, at that point in time, most of my life was sponsoring large technology initiatives. Often I refer to this as feeding a money fire. So I would go to the CFO, I would ask the CFO for money, I would give the money to the technology people, they would light a match, they would set the money on fire, they would come back, ask me for more money so I could go back to the CFO and ask for more money. And that was pretty much my job for a number of years. It's very, very fulfilling, as you can tell. Obviously all was not well with that particular world, and the organization decides to restructure, which is fine. So it's what organizations do. And strangely enough, they couldn't find anybody who was willing to be the leader for this technology group that really only knew how to burn money as opposed to deliver anything. So they say to me, would you do this job? I don't think that's a very good idea. I'm not a technology person. This is not my thing. And their answer was, well, you should just try it. Sure. So yeah, I end up in this really interesting place. I'm suddenly this business person in charge of a 150-person technology team with a massive program of work. We had been doing what I fondly refer to as the worst Agile known to man. And the worst Agile known to man was making things marginally better. It was really interesting. So we'd gone from, complete money fire to, like a slow burn type scenario. So it was progressive, right? And I was, looking for answers, and I came across Dean Leffingwell's Scaling Software Agility. And I went, he seems to know something about delivering stuff. And these Agile release trains sound really cool. So then someone hands me a technology organization and I go, awesome, now I can launch an Agile release train. And it's so interesting to me because I don't know at the time that I recognized that this was not, what people did. It was very new. At that point, I just, I saw a problem, I saw a possible solution, and, I'd already told them I wasn't qualified for the job. So I figured that, I'd just try the things that I read about in the book and we'd see what happens. So, I go from, someone really knowing nothing about Agile, nothing about technology, to somebody who knows a little bit about Agile because we started doing this worst Agile known to man, to the person who launches Australia's first Agile release train, and becomes one of the first, which becomes one of the first 10 safe case studies in the world. I mean, talk about right place, right time. I see lots of it was right place, right time, right place, right time. I'm not sure, but I often look back and go,
sounds more like wrong place, wrong time, but you made it work anyway.
Yeah, maybe it was fun, and it was so much fun that's become what I do ever since. I just really enjoy being able to create that cultural change for organizations, creating places that people really like to work. And that initial journey for me was so interesting because when I took over that organization, we couldn't recruit. So we'd go to market looking for people, we'd go through recruiters, how people go through the recruitment process, and then someone says, would you like to know who the client is and go meet them? And they say, sure. And they'd find out who the client was and they'd say, I don't need a job that badly. That was that was the world that we started in. And to go from that to a place that people really enjoyed to work and people would recommend to others was just awesome. And like to be able to do that for other organizations has been awesome.
Okay, that is incredible. I read the case study, but hearing you talk about it, it makes it so much more real. I want to follow up with you in sense of, you said yes to something that you weren't sure you wanted to do that wasn't necessarily your job description. Is that personality trait has always been with you, or did something trigger that ability to say yes and try things anyway?
I don't know that it's always just been something I do. I remember that decision point very, very clearly. I remember talking to my friends and my colleagues, and the advice I was given, which was actually really, really quite solid. Somebody said to me, "Em, you're a business person." Yes. Somebody just offered you the GM role for a technology organization. Yes. Em, this is never, ever going to happen to you again. Just take it. And they were probably right. I mean, when does that happen? When does somebody with no technology qualification, didn't grow up in technology, get handed the leadership of a large technology organization inside a massive corporate, right? It doesn't happen. So, I think that was really awesome advice. I'm very glad I did it. Changed my life. Changed my life. So, I don't think I shy away from a challenge. So there's probably, some part of that was just, used to work for a guy who always told me I punched above my weight. So I've always been one to sort of go out and do things that are perhaps I'm technically not qualified to do. But that was certainly the largest leap certainly what felt to me at the time like the largest leap I'd ever taken. I still look back at it and go, really? What was I thinking? What were they thinking? I can remember telling him this story one day, and he says, "You're joking. Large organization, no IT qualification, and they put you in charge." Yes. You're joking. No.
It's probably an extraordinary opportunity, but it also could have gone badly very easily, right?
Oh, yeah. So
it almost sounds like a glass slip. You get an amazing leadership opportunity in a situation where you're almost designed to fail, and yet you make it a success.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So certainly it was the risk profile was significant in my view. Although I guess when I took the job, I can remember having this view that, I told them I wasn't qualified. I went back and just went, "You people are nuts. This is not a good idea." And they said, "Well, don't worry, and we'll give you all the support that you need, and you should try this." Interestingly enough, the support wasn't overly forthcoming after I agreed, but I took this view that said, "Okay, you're the people who took the person that was not qualified for the job and put them in charge. So what have I got to lose?" And I think it made me very bold. And in some ways, I guess not coming from that space made me, I was less inhibited in some ways. So you don't grow up in technology. You don't feel as wedded to the traditional processes because they're not the thing you've been doing for the last 20 years. So there was a bit of freedom in coming from a different world and really looking at everything through a lens of, does this make sense? As opposed to, this is the way we've always done things, because I didn't have a this is the way we've always done things type view, except as a customer or a sponsor. So, sorry, I forgot what you asked me initially.
It sounds like a common sense view of leadership. Applying your experiences to business leaders these days, what would be your advice for them in terms of agile transformation, cultural change, and making agile happen in a way that is sustainable and appropriate for their organization?
So there were a few things in there. So do you want to?
Complicated question.
It's right. No, it's right. It had a few parts, and I forgot the beginning part.
Okay, so based on your experience as a leader of Agile transformations, what advice would you give to others for leading Agile transformations?
Okay. Look, I think there's. I don't like to say a lot of this is about taking a leap of faith, but then I can't really think of a better term for it. It's you know, when we were talking about when I did this, I didn't know. I read some books. I went, okay, this works for some people. I'll try it. I'll see what happens. Nothing to lose. And I think certainly in some ways the mindset that you have nothing to lose can be kind of useful. It's very freeing, whether it's true or not. And I don't know that it is true. You know, did I have nothing to lose? Well, I had my job to lose. So, you know, I had plenty to lose, but I had a mindset that said I had nothing to lose. And I think I look at a lot of leaders, and even as you go through your Agile transformation journey, you start to have success. And the more successful you get, the less daring you get, because now you've got something to lose again. So, you know, it really, there's a lot of that sort of just courage, sensible risk taking, controlled experiments. You know, you have to be willing to step outside the comfort zone. You have to be willing to try things. I'm a big believer that there is a wealth of information out there. There's books, there's blogs, there's conferences. There are so many places you can get ideas. So it's not like you have to go into it blindly, right? You don't have to randomly just make something up. You can pick something that is tried and true, and you're making, you know, in some ways, and you're taking a low risk experiment, right? How badly can it go? But so much does come from risk taking, and I must say, the leaders that have been most bold have been the most successful.
That's really good advice. I especially like the part about the more success you have, the more important it is to keep challenging yourself and to keep taking risks.
Yep.
Okay, so that I think would be a nice thing to your community involvement, because Agile is relatively new in Australia, relatively speaking, but there has been a very active community from the very beginning, and you've been a part of it. How did you get involved? What made you get involved in this community?
Initially I was looking to learn. Certainly Melbourne, where I'm from, has a very active meetup community. Over the years, they've had all sorts of folks from all over the world come and present at meetups, and I can remember just being hungry to learn and going to meetups to hear from people that I could hear from every day, because, you know, I lived in Melbourne, Australia, which is the end of the earth. And then I remember discovering the Agile Alliance conferences. I can remember the first time I'm looking at this conference, I'm looking at this program, and you know, there's Linda Rising and there's Mike Cohn, and I'm going, oh my God, all these people, they're just there. I can just go and they're just there. So I went to my first Agile Alliance conference, and I thought, oh, that was pretty incredible. And I don't know, eventually you start contributing. People start to tell you have a story. That was sort of my experience. I got invited to the first time I actually spoke at an Agile conference in the US was Rally-On 2013, and I was invited. And this is kind of cool, right? You know, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, someone invites you to Boulder, Colorado to talk about what you're doing, because it's so different and so unique and so new. And that's pretty cool. What I really discovered was I had a story, and then people wanted to hear that story, so I started, you know, offering it to other places. You know, I wanted to go back to the Alliance conference, and went, well, you know, one of the more affordable ways to do that is to contribute. And I think over the years, you know, I feel like it's the right thing to do. I'm actually in Canberra this week as opposed to Melbourne. I was in a meetup last night because a guy I met in Sydney earlier this year said, when you come to Canberra, will you talk at my meetup? So that's what I did. Yeah, I think people were very generous with their time, allowed me to learn. I'm happy to share what I know. I'm happy to answer the questions. It's the right thing to do.
Love it. Can we talk about how your love of learning and sharing led you to become a writer?
Oh my goodness. So I started speaking before I started writing, or started writing before I don't know anymore. I guess I started doing both things. At a point in time, I guess I started taking some of the stuff I've been talking about and writing it down. So I started blogging. And people tell me I'm a natural storyteller, and I write very much like I speak. So it was not so hard. I just had to write down the stories I was telling people, because I was telling people stories. And I got my blog got a lot of attention really quickly. People liked, I guess the voice. They liked that it was, it sounded like me. And one of the things I often get told about that initial blog was, it wasn't a blog full of success stories or theories. Really, mostly what I wrote about was, here are the experiments that we're running. And here's what happened, and here's what we learned, and here's what went wrong, and here's what we tried after that, and here's where we landed. So it was always just, here's what we did, and it was very much, here's the experience. And when I started blogging, I was working with a group of people where we had this learning culture. We read books, we went to conferences, we got ideas, and we'd come back to the office and we'd go, so team, we learned about this thing. Wouldn't that be fun? And I worked with some really willing people. And then the organisation I was working with at the time enjoyed the blogging. I can remember one of my my direct reports saying to me, "It's such an awesome thing you're doing, Em." And I said, "Why?" I'm just blogging. And he said, "But it's not just your blogging. You're creating a legacy for everybody who's been part of this journey. So everybody who's here, part of this world right now, who's part of this story, gets to point back to that and go, I was part of that." Okay, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I blogged and I blogged and I blogged, and I remember, it's interesting, I guess when your blog's taking off, I'm sitting in a bar in Washington, and this guy walks up to me and he says, "You're pretty agile." I'm like, "Yes, I am." This is really weird. Okay, so people are paying attention, and then people start asking, "Are you going to write a book?" I don't know, maybe. Hadn't really thought about it. And apparently, the theory on book writing is the right time to write a book is when people start asking you to write a book. So people started asking me, and I ended up writing a book. I think I wanted. By that point, the blog was fairly substantial. And I'd find when I was working with people and talking with people, I'd refer them to various articles. But it's actually bizarrely hard to get people to actually just log on the internet, find the blog page, and read the article. So I had this whole theory that really it would be better if I could just hand people, here's the parcel, right? Because the blog is very organic and it jumps all over the place. So this is now, this is sequential. Some of the stories are from the blog, some are from other places. But here's a package. Here's an actual message. Where to go? Let's try that. And actually, it has been far more successful in terms of people who are asking questions and wanting to do things and getting them to read and then ask questions. Has been great. So yeah, that's how it came about.
That's awesome. I will say that I was an early reader of your blog, and what I remember is it was accessible. It wasn't all this technical jargon. And I was in Lean, not Agile, and I came into an accidental product owner role without the technology background. So reading your blog made me feel like, okay, I don't have to be a technologist to be an Agilist.
Nice.
So thank you. It certainly helped shape my career.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
So author, speaker, community engagement, you do all of those things. Based on your experience, what would be your advice for everyone else who's like, okay, I want to do what she does?
Oh my goodness.
Other than obviously be you and clone you.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like fun. I think the world only needs one of me. My goodness. Um, yeah, everybody has a story. Just got to share it. It's not easy. I think in some ways, time was on my side a little bit. I think it's a much harsher environment now than it was when I started doing this. Because even now, I find myself going, "Oh, do I want to put myself out there? Do I want to write this blog, tweet it, and then have everybody come back and tell me how I'm wrong, or that's not agile, or that's really hard. I think maybe you pick something that makes you feel safe but brave. So put yourself out there, but it doesn't have to be the most radical thing. Often ask others what if you don't know what to talk about, what to write about. Ask others what they think's unique about your experience. I know when I work with my team in a business sense, and we talk about what they might want to present at various places, I can step back from them a little bit and go, well, you've done this, and this, and I don't think that's common at all. So why don't you talk about that? So find your thing, your uniqueness, your little bit of differentness, and then just put it out in the world because it'll resonate with someone.
That is fantastic. And this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Is there anything else that I forgot to ask you about that you want to share with our viewers?
There's another book on the horizon. So should be by October 1, I think, maybe October 2. I've got to work out the time zone differences. Anyway, October 1-ish, depending on where you are in the world. I am very, very hopeful that you will be able to get a copy of The Art of Avoiding a Train Wreck. Tips and tricks for launching and sustaining agile release trains.
I love the title, and it sounds like it's going to be authentic and direct from your experiences, so can't wait to read it.